would like to call to order the Lewis County Board of County Commissioners meeting of August 10th. There is 3 commissioners present, so we have a quorum. Commissioner Schulte, would you like to lead us in the flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes for August 3rd, 2015 BOCC minutes meeting.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of August 3rd, 2015. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have no public comment, so we'll move on to the notice agenda.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the notice agenda, items 1 and 2, resolution number 15-TAC-227 and 15-TAC-228.
I second.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Elsie, Public Works Director, speaking to both items 1 and 2 on your notice agenda. Item number 1 is regarding the temporary closure of Ceres Hill Road to all through traffic. This is resolution number 15-227. And we're closing this road from August 24th through October 6th to replace a culvert at milepost 5.82. We will notify 911 communications, local fire department, and school districts of the closure.
Okay, questions? Thank you.
Item number 2 is a notice of hearing regarding a proposed franchise extension to Puget Sound Energy for construction, operation, and maintenance of water lines for the Jackson Prairie Gas Storage Project. This is a notice of a hearing that will be held on or after 10 a.m. on Monday, August 31st, and this is resolution number 15-228. We've been in negotiations with PSC for the language on the franchise. We've extended their franchise agreement once through December of 2014, and this will extend it one more time through December of 2015 with the same language that we had before. We are making progress on the language on this, and we believe that we'll have this finalized by December of 2015.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the notice agenda 1 through 2, resolution number 15-227 through 228. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda, items 3 through 6, resolution number 15-229 through 15-232, and split off resolution number 15-233, number 7, separately.
Okay.
I second.
All right. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Suzette Smith, Auditor's Office Financial Services Division, here today to present to you agenda item number 3. It is resolution 15-229. This is our weekly approval of warrants, and this week we also have payroll claims for payments. These are against the various county departments. So last week we had warrants numbers 728874 through 728957. 729161 through 729357 for a total of 281 regular AP warrants. Total dollar amount $1,995,277.49. In addition, we had payroll and benefits. Those were warrants numbers 728958 through 729160 for 303 payroll warrants. In addition, we had 475 automatic deposits. Payroll is dated August 5th. Total was $3,429,124.61. Questions?
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Arnie Davis, Lewis County Treasurer, presenting resolution number 15-230. This is a refunding of the Series 2005 Lewis County General Obligation Bonds. approximately $4 million. The difference in this one is that when you get down into the $4 million balance range, you start to get into the market for banks. So we put this out with the assistance of, I'd like to introduce this morning before I get going, Susan Musselman and Duncan Brown with PFM Group. They're our counsel. And our bond counsel, Roy Cogan and Debbie Haskins, are here to answer any specific questions you might have as we go through this process. Anyway, so this thing went out to bid with several banks: Columbia Bank, Umpqua Bank, Capital One Public Services, Key Bank, Zions Bank, BBVA, Compass Bank, and PFM. That says their estimates. Anyway, Columbia Bank, which is our depository for the county, came in with a nice rate of 2.13%. This represents about $368,659 in savings over the remaining 10 years of this bond. That's the essentials of it. There are, when you deal with the bank, there are prepayment penalties on this for the first 5 years. After 5 years, you can pay it off ahead of time. But based on how this has gone out, I still recommend passing this resolution. I think this is a good deal for the county. It's some nice savings. Do you have any questions?
What account has the savings? I know it's not current expense, our operating account.
Oh, this would be general fund.
It will be a general fund savings?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any questions for bond counsel? And we'll need you, Edna, after the meeting for some signatures after everybody signed the resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your work on this. Thank you. Anytime we can save money. Yes.
And Commissioners, once again, Suzette Smith, Auditor's Office, Financial Services. If you approve the previous resolution that Arnie presented to you, section number 9 of that resolution does require that the county set up a dedicated debt service fund. So agenda item number 5, resolution number 15-231, will establish that debt service fund. It will be called the 2015 Debt Service Fund number 215, and it will run throughout the entire length of that bond until they are fully paid off.
Okay. Questions? Thank you. Ms. Napier.
Good morning, Lee Napier, Director of Community Development, speaking on agenda item number 6, resolution 15-232. Before the Board of County Commissioners, it is an interagency agreement from the Resource Conservation Office, or RCO. And this agreement would be administered on behalf of Lewis County as the fiscal agent for the Flood Authority. So instead of OFM being the source of our money for the Flood Authority, now it has been transferred over to the Resource Conservation Office. So this would be the standard grant agreement that we have that provides costs for administration. So the project management support of Jim Kramer, Scott Betcher of SBGH Partners, some staff time from Lewis County, as well as French and Associates. The total amount for this grant is $373,332.19. The time period for it will be the next 2 years, beginning July 1 of this year and continuing on through June 30th of 2017. Any questions?
Questions? Okay. Thank you. So we will approve the consent agenda items 3 through 6, resolution number 15-229 through 232. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we will move to item 7 on our agenda, and Lee Napier plus some other individuals will be talking on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make the motion to approve resolution number 15-233?
Gary?
I second.
Okay.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. Okay.
Thank you. Lee Napier again, Director of Community Development, speaking on Resolution 15-233. So this is a resolution to modify the outdoor burning to essentially make a full burn ban. There have been some revisions to the ordinance.
Instead of saying a full burn ban, to extend the burn ban?
Yes. That's not the right one.
As it says, modify restrictions on outdoor burning to a full ban
If
throughout
we could just-
unincorporated.
1 second while we
Okay.
put up the correct resolution.
Okay.
That's the resolution that was submitted.
Yep.
So that everybody can see it. It may not have been tied into this agenda. Yeah. Yes, that's the correct one. Okay, back to the, as it is on the agenda, is to modify restrictions on outdoor burning to a full burn ban throughout the unincorporated areas of Lewis County. And so what we are suggesting, and as you've mentioned, so community development as well as Central Services Manager Michael Strozik, because I couldn't attend, did consult with the Fire Chiefs Association. And 2 of the fire chiefs are present today, so if you'd like their input, Chief Mike Kidda from Riverside Fire Authority and Greg Peterson, Chief from Newaukum Valley Fire and Rescue number 5, are also present.
And I think Chief Peterson is also the chair of the Fire Chiefs Association for Lewis County.
Right. So this resolution comes before you with input from our staff, input from the public, as well as consultation with the Fire Chiefs Association. And we have drafted this change to extend and to also modify the burn ban to now include recreational fires.
So when you said a full burn ban, does that include agricultural lands?
No, that is not under our regulatory authority.
Does it include barbecues?
It includes barbecues, it accepts propane and charcoal barbecues that are self-contained with a lid, so that a person, if it gets out of control, can contain it, put the lid on, hopefully stop the fire.
So it's
Those
an
are
extended-
excluded.
It's extended burn ban with exceptions.
Any other questions? Okay,
And as I mentioned, the fire chiefs are here
Yes.
if you'd like their input.
please come up, one at a time. Identify yourself and give us your information.
Sure. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Michael Kidda. I'm the fire chief at the Riverside Fire Authority serving the greater Centralia area. And as per our request that we received on Friday, we are here this morning to be of service to you, so we'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have. I know that many of you saw an email that I had transmitted to all of our personnel on Friday in recognition of the burn ban within the unincorporated area as well as within the incorporated area of the city of Centralia. And we do recognize that there can be quite a bit of confusion when these types of changes are made, especially if one side of a street can do something and another side of a street cannot. And we were trying to be respectful of that as well. And we also recognize that this is a very big change in our area. Greg has over 40 years of experience in the fire service, as do I in Lewis County, and I do not recall ever having a complete burn ban with respect to recreational fires before. However, I would submit to you that the circumstances that we are under now are far different than what is normal, or in fact what we have in all likelihood seen before with recorded history about fire behavior. In the late 70s, there was a period of time where we had a couple of droughts that occurred in 77 and 78. I can recall driving around on Rife Lake as a young man, enjoying that, but the water was way down by the dam. Since then, I don't really recall having the circumstances that we have now, where the vegetation is as dry as it is. That's not only the dead fuels, the ones that are already dead, but the live fuel moisture content, the science says that it's very low as well. Stream flows, as we know, are being scrutinized and regulated by many agencies now, as far as being able to draw for irrigation, fishing, all types of things are under scrutiny right now. And what we're seeing is conditions that I believe, based on my lifetime here, are ones that we would normally see late in September. And we're about a month and a half early. Had an opportunity to take a drive yesterday. After being here, actually I haven't left the area since before Independence Day. And actually it was my first day to actually be off since before Independence Day because of the danger that we're in. Went out west, went toward Menlo, and encountered a fire there. Took our my wife's mother to Westport yesterday. The further west we went, the more I saw that was green. However, again, we didn't make it that far into Pacific County before we encountered a fire there. As we came back last night, almost by the milepost, I could see how dry it was getting coming back this way. It was remarkable because having had been here this long during this period of time, I didn't realize, frankly, how dry it had become. Noticed that the leaf-bearing trees were all changing the way that they are. Normally in September to October, leaves are accumulating on the ground, adding to the dead fuels. That tells me that the live fuels truly are drying up the way that science says that they are. I can tell you from the Fire Chiefs Association group perspective, at the meeting last week, this was not a topic that was taken lightly. These folks are very in touch with their communities, and they know that people want to enjoy this time of year. But I think that they also recognize that throughout our area, we are experiencing a far above normal natural vegetation fire occurrence rate. The fires are spreading faster, and they're larger. All of that means that the resources necessary to contain these fires are being tied up fighting actual fires right now. Also during a period of time where whether it's a paid group or a volunteer group, we're in peak volunteer season, vacation season for our volunteers that are leaving the area, as well as mobilizing across the state. So I really don't think that this is an alarmist or a knee-jerk reaction to something. I think that we recognize that 90% or greater of the fires that occur out here somehow are tied to the activity of mankind. And outdoor burning during the early part of the season is normally a large contributor where fires escape and get away.
Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Well, sure. That's why I'm here.
The first one is, are you in favor of extending the burn ban?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You never said that, so I'm making sure that I'm clear. Two is, what is the number one cause of fires so far this year?
If I had to speculate, because there isn't a centralized database to tell you the cause of these fires, I would say, again, it's human-caused, and largely it would be careless discarding of smoking materials.
Okay, that's what I have read so far, too, that it's smoking.
I believe that to be true, yes.
So is this resolution that we're passing this morning, is it adequate, it is not enough, or is it too much?
I think that it is adequate right now, based on the information that we have. I do believe that we're somewhat in uncharted waters here, as far as seeing something that is very unusual in our area, and we don't have a great depth of data to draw upon. So I believe that what you're doing right now is adequate. Because
I have heard that the number one source of fires is improperly discarded lit cigarettes. And so if that's the case, is there some way we can add that as an emphasis on either patrol or...
Sure. I think that there's an emphasis that needs to be made upon that through our public education opportunities, because the materials that I sent out emphasize from our perspective that when we encounter the public that we would provide information to them as to how to prevent fires, and that would be one of the leading ones that we would be promoting, would be to be careful with that. We've actually had some building fires that have resulted from what I suspect to be careless discarding of smoking materials, where people will take and put their cigarette out in a planter, even on their front porch area, that normally that's not a problem, but right now it is. Everything is that dry.
And just this resolution does not ban smoking?
No, it most certainly doesn't, because it's not reasonable to even think so. But I'd be happy to, address anything that you think you'd like to hear.
Commissioner Stamper, do you have any questions?
I do have, one of the things that I do have concerns, and I think it was brought up in our meeting this morning, is, first off, does the county have to declare an emergency to extend the burn ban? And I don't know if that's exactly been answered or not, which is something for our legal counsel. And again, this was generated, in my opinion, and again, I'm very, very conscious of personal rights and property rights. And I know that everyone, as a matter of fact, the first questions that I received from citizens were up in Packwood. And I know the chief up there very well as everyone else. So coming from him, that was one of the things that the process when we moved through, and actually Commissioner Schultze is the one that brought up the fact that we need to get the professionals in to make sure, to find out what's going on and what their opinions are. And so that was really the first base that we looked at. So I'm kind of wrestling with this end of it right now. And I guess my last question is, and again, it's a question, if the press releases have all went out, we know what it is, and if we are in compliance with what we're supposed to do, if we have to declare that emergency, that's the one area that I'm wrestling with right now. So, and again, I don't know if that can be answered or not. So that's going to be our decision.
Yes, sir.
This weekend, I had an opportunity to talk to some folks from the National Park Service, and I think part of our citizens that we're all a little bit different in how we put the burn restrictions out there. Certain places do this and this, and I had an inquiry, an email saying, can't you guys do all the same one? And I said, well, we're all different jurisdictions. And I think, isn't Centralia just a little bit different than this one that we have here?
It also indicates that barbecues are permissible. I believe that the language states something about a standing barbecue with a contained flame.
And so you're doing unincorporated,
Yes.
and then doing incorporated. So
Yes.
yeah, there's that particular piece for folks, and I know Chehalis has a little bit different too. But that's the way we all have different governing bodies, and there's just further refinement. But I think we all recognize there's a huge problem we have going on right now, and we need to take some action. Anything else you'd like to say, Chief? Okay, how about Chief Peterson?
Good morning. I'm Greg Peterson. I'm Chief of Newaukum Valley Fire and Rescue. As Mike said, I've got quite an extensive history in the fire service. What I should have learned in the last 20 years is I should try and speak before Mike. So there's actually something for me to say. But I was out last night up on the Gish Road fire till about 10 o'clock. And again this morning at the briefing, that fire was calculated to be 103 acres. And it was controlled by, as you know, jet aircraft dropping in retardants to protect the homes. They're up there again this morning working, and one of the things that was stated was we need to be very particular and watch out for flying ashes and brands from this fire that get into the open dry grass fields that are around the perimeter of the area they're fighting the fire in. And I think that dry grass exists everywhere in this county. And I believe that the resolution to enact this is wise to eliminate the chances of sparks getting out into dry grass. The fire service right now is extended, we're in a very thin state of readiness in this county. I believe there are 5 local tenders that are tied up on the Gish Road fire supplying water to those firefighters. That's 5 tenders that we have lost within a 15-mile radius of this location that are not available for the next brush fire that might come in. Yesterday afternoon, there were multiple brush fires that came in while responding to the Gish Road fire. So I believe that it's something we need to do in order to secure our community in the future.
And would you like to talk a bit about the meeting that you had with the other fire chiefs and the discussion you had?
Yes, we had quite a discussion. We actually met out in Packwood. We have a meeting that we try and get up to the East End in Packwood for our regular meeting. We went around the table and each chief had input into it, what they thought the burn restriction should be. We came short of calling it a ban of burning. We wanted to call it a restriction to burning and restricted to only using those approved appliances and not allowing open fire pits, as we have in the past, that if it's a cooking fire, it would be acceptable. A recreation fire would be acceptable. We're now at the point where it was unanimous amongst the group that any outdoor spark-creating fire would be unwise at this time.
Would that be included tiki torches and luminaries and all of that?
I believe that was discussed, and I think that was pointed out as an issue as well.
I'm not sure that this talks about open flames, just recreational fires. So I don't know how far this resolution goes.
Well, I think that it was, check me if I'm incorrect here, Chief Kiddo, but I believe it was open flame devices that were not in approved containers.
That's
So
what
that-
the county ordinance says.
So it would be, I don't believe that a tiki torch would be in an approved container.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you.
And thank you for all the work you did at the Gish Road fire. I know we had to evacuate folks, and I know the sheriff's office was heavily involved. It brought a lot of people together to respond.
Well, as Mike would probably say, it's kind of a bad habit we've developed of hanging around fires.
Yes. Would our DEM manager, Steve Mansfield, like to say something?
Steve Mansfield, Emergency Management. Just a couple things. We're very fortunate to have Chief Kidda and Chief Peterson here with us today. We're also very fortunate to have their caliber out there protecting this community in fire services. There's no one I've known in the last 30 years that even compares to the knowledge base and the level of expertise they have. So my advice, if I had any to give to you today, would be to listen very carefully to what they say, because I would just be repeating it. And the danger is real. In the last week and a half, we've had 2 major burns in the same area out there. We are very fortunate in some regards to have the Centralia Alpha burn, because DNR still had an incredible amount of resources close by to assist and help our local fire services. We're running out of resources. We have not reached these points before in this county's history that the people in this room know about. I talked to you last week about California has, and they deal with this all the time, but we do not. And DNR is at the scene this morning talking to the incident commander, and he's really concerned. I don't know if this information is correct, but he said Lewis and Cowlitz were the only ones that hadn't enacted anything yet that covered everything. I haven't confirmed that, but that's what he's seeing. And he asked, I told him I'd be briefing you this morning or talking to you. He said, we need all the support we can get. And they're getting ready to turn that over to an incident type 3 team out of Arizona who they're contracting with. So we've got a lot of resources out there. We've got emergency conditions. Now, that doesn't mean, Commissioner Stamper, that we have to do a declaration of emergency, in my opinion, to enact this.
Would that make our case stronger if we did that, though?
Yes, and I'd be more than happy to talk with you further about that after this meeting, what it would do, what it won't do. It's certainly what it does do is fire services have the resources through how they do business to gain resources across the state. And I think a declaration of emergency would state the seriousness of this, because we're not just necessarily dealing with the fires. That's the biggest component of this. But we could have displaced residences. We could have businesses that are at risk. There's all sorts of other things that I think if we put the message out, and that deserves some further discussion, okay, I think. But a declaration of emergency, not disaster.
Just real quick, should we have that discussion before this resolution? Or is it okay to do it afterwards?
It's not necessary at all. It's not necessary that you have a declaration of emergency in place to approve this and move forward with it. It's just a timing thing. Yes. But I think it's a good point, because we are in emergency conditions. You heard it from the experts here. Yes. And it's just what I want to stress. It's just not about the fires now. It's about our resources. And they're expending an incredible amount of resources that we may not have for something else that they would be available to respond to immediately. So they have a crisis on their hands, and it's our crisis too. It's this whole community. And whether or not you enact anything here or not, people need to realize that even if there's not a criminal penalty, if you start a fire that accidentally even that moves onto someone else's property or Forest Service land or some sort of timberlands, there's an element of liability, civil liability on your part, and people need to realize that. So it's just not the criminal thing that would become criminal if they violate this, but there's a huge risk as far as that fire spreading outside of your own property. So a few things to think about. I just feel very fortunate. I wasn't aware they were going to be here this morning. I feel very fortunate they were. They could give you that advice. There's no one better to deliver the message.
Yes. Any other questions? Okay,
I do have a question. So could we have some more explanation on enforcement, difference between enforcement and, for example, if you're a volunteer fireman, there's a fire person, they come up, there's a camp, or there's an illegal burn there, maybe they got a recreation fire. So again, I'm going to go up and we're going to ask the person to put it out, and then they'll usually put it out. I've never heard them not putting it out. But at some point, if they become belligerent, then the fire departments are out of it at that point in time.
Well, this is, and I'm going to defer that question to fire and law enforcement in our building because I'm no longer the sheriff.
Wes or
But
someone
this,
would like to
I want to say something here. This has been an issue clear back when the previous sheriff was here. And there was some butting heads with the fire districts and what we were going to do, what we weren't. I think we resolved a lot of that 10 years ago when I took office. However, it's for them to make that decision, what their resources and where they will expend them. And the partnership between our fire marshal, our fire services people, and our local law enforcement is what is. They need to discuss that. I'm out of place in doing that at this time.
Would somebody from the sheriff's office, who would like to speak? Thanks.
Bruce Kimsey, Chief Criminal Deputy, Lewis County Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
We have been talking about this quite a bit, and it comes down to enforcement. We obviously need to educate the people, and I have the burn pit in my backyard. But if you look all around, there's fields, nothing but fields. And I keep on telling my wife, before we even start talking, we're not burning nothing because of the danger of it. I spent yesterday out on Centralia Alpha Road, and that thing is huge. It's growing. I mean, people need to understand that the fire danger is a real deal. And for the enforcement part of it, we need to talk to the fire chiefs, the prosecutor's office, and get a good understanding of this ordinance and what we can cite for if we have to cite.
Bruce,
But
we changed the resolution a little bit this morning. After reading through the ordinance, it says it will be enforced by building official, fire marshal, which is the same office, then code compliance and the sheriff's department. Those are the three entities that can do enforcement.
That's named in the code.
oh, good.
Named in the code.
So what's the sheriff's office policy on enforcement?
We're taking this as, these fires are a serious threat to everybody in this county. 99% of people are going to put out the fires.
So you're in support of this resolution?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else out there that would like to weigh in? Okay, Craig.
Craig Larson, 911 manager. I just want to bring one little piece of perspective to this. I've been gone for a week, but this is very important to 911. I've listened to numerous calls that have come in the past few weeks where people are reporting that there's a fire, thinking that there is a burn ban in effect, and there's confusion in the public, there's confusion upstairs as far as, is this a burn that is legal or is this a burn that is not legal? And you can hear the disappointment in the public's voice when they are told, oh, that's a okay burn. Oh, I thought that there was a burn ban. This is going to take care of that. Now, if there's open flames, as I understand it, generally speaking, if there's an open flame, we're going to get a call and we're going to know that it needs to be responded to. I think this cleans it up. It's going to make it a lot easier for everybody, the public and us, to understand and deploy resources to. So I'm in favor of this as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Any questions?
I guess anybody else out there? Okay.
I have another statement.
Okay.
I have been very concerned about how this process has moved forward. It addresses open and transparent government. It talks about make sure you do a public meeting as soon as possible, either before or just after that this burn ban is extended. It talks about making sure that the people who know that they're going to be enforcing this and the experts who say we've got to the point where we need this ban. and I was very, very reluctant to approve anything that interferes with individuals' rights on their own property. And I wanted to make sure we had followed the correct process, that we had dotted all the I's, we had crossed all the T's, that if we needed an emergency declaration, we would do that first. My questions have all been answered, and I'm more comfortable now, after this public hearing, to vote for this than I was even 2 days ago. So I appreciate the Sheriff's Department, the different fire chiefs, 911 people who come in, Steve Mansfield from our Emergency Management Office. I wanted to make sure we had done this right, that we had gone through all the steps, that the conditions were bad enough that the experts were saying, not only is this the right thing to do at this time, but you're probably a little bit overdue. So thank you for coming in and making public testimony.
Commissioner Stamper, any comments?
No, too, I would just like to thank everyone. And again, this is, I've almost, well, I'll be 62 soon. And I have never seen the conditions like this. And I've lived in this county my entire life. And so, even when there was a town of Rife. So that tells you about that. So I appreciate everyone coming in. And again, it's very ironic, too, because when you're what I'll call just a normal, just a citizen out there, and you pay attention to things, but then when you're in this position, especially, you know, you're driving down the road, you're not only looking at the road, obviously, but you're noticing the grasses are all dry. And up where I live, around the Swofford Pond area, the roads are narrow enough to where the dry grasses are already on the road, because it's just, you know, they're trying to maintain the roads, and everyone is for sure trying to cut the grasses, but it's almost impossible to do every road. So you notice those things, and again, when I drive by the pond or where I'm driving, I make sure there's not a fire there. And Swofford Pond is a great place for older people and young kids to go up and fish and do some things there, recreate. But again, it's you're very, very keen on what's going on, and they're good rule followers up there, because I've not seen one. So, and I pretty much go through there every day. So, and thank you guys. And I know this is where it's close to everyone's heart, but we don't want to see our county. It's already burning. We just don't want to extend it. So, thank you guys very much for all you do.
I'd like to echo those comments of the previous two commissioners. And yesterday I received a call from a friend who lived on Gish Road. And she and her 88-year-old mother were being moved out and gathering their papers and moving away. And I was just proud to know that all the folks were out there working together at that fire. Lots of people were out there. And then when I just heard our DEM manager talking about an emergency declaration for the future, maybe for housing, and I'm thinking, you know, if some of those folks from the Gish Road, rather than going to relatives, they knew they'd have a place to go to, which maybe we can have in the future, that would be helpful. But once again, I'm glad we're in Lewis County. I'm glad we all work together. And we're going to survive this, but it's going to be, I think, a tough fire season. And as I go around the county, I see some of these dead trees, and I'm like, oh, chop that baby down, and because you never know how quickly things could go up with a spark from something. But anyway, thank you for all your work. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve item number 7, resolution number 15-233. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
With no further business, I move we adjourn.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you again for coming.